my God. I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, we can keep going.
She wanted to kind of make sure that nobody else went through that, right? And one of the big factors that she realized was the sort of lack of connection and community that he had gone through in his individual college path, right? And so that started mainly to focus on providing that for college students. And now, as the organization has gone on and had different iterations and so on and so forth, right? We have a yearly conference that Javier and I have both attended in different years, where the goal is to kind of spread that message out, right? And now there's even a pipeline of starting it in middle schools and high schools, so that we start that conversation early, right? So that students understand what the value of mental health, right? What that impact can look like, and how you can essentially have that kind of be as a companion with you as you go through your grade school and then eventually college, and hopefully into your professional career.
Also, I think a core value or belief of Active Minds is that students, young peers, and they can be the agents of change, and they can have these conversations, and they can change the conversation around mental health and create safe spaces where you can have those real conversations with your peers and support each other.
Now, I'm kind of curious on your guys' own personal journeys towards this. It's a organization club, correct? Mm-hmm. What made y'all want to become more a part of it and take up officer positions?
Yeah. Do you want to go first or should I?
Go ahead, Javier. Seal this down.
No pressure, right?
Yeah.
I think for me personally, I've definitely had people around me struggle with mental health and unfortunately take their lives to suicide. And also myself, I've definitely struggled with mental health growing up. And I think having those conversations was always tough, not only for me, but for my friends. And so in high school is when I started to try to be an agent of change and to try to make an impact. And so I started working with our state representatives, and I joined the South Texas Youth Congress, where we held podcasts advocating for a House Bill 3898, creating counselors that would address the mental health needs across all public schools in South Texas. And so that was definitely like my input of like, okay, I'm young, but I can make a difference. I have a voice in politics, and I can create change, not only just with the people around me, but on the state legislative level. And then coming to college, I definitely I continued that, and now I'm more of a I guess my role is more as like an advisor kind of, or like a coordinator of like now for other high school students and chapters, and show them like how to have those conversations with state representatives. And then so joining Active Minds, I really resonated with their mission of having those conversations about mental health. And so when I saw my friend Sasha was a part of this organization and she had gone to the conference and she was posting about it, I was like, yes, that's definitely something like I see myself doing. Mental health is something that I really resonate with, and I definitely want to continue to create change. And so I joined Active Minds. I loved it. And I saw that we had tea time and like all these different events. And so I was like, I would definitely love to take on an officer role and have these conversations about mental health and help UTRGV change the conversation around mental health and help people who are struggling with mental health.
And you're a junior right now?
Yes, I'm a junior.
How long have you been in Active Minds?
I've been in it for a year and a half, I believe, yes.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
What about you?
Cool. Yeah. So for me, I'm a non-traditional college student, meaning, I didn't come right out of high school. I technically already have an English degree from way back in the day, right? And my journey to Active Minds is pretty much aligned with my journey through mental health, right? So I had another career path, and during the pandemic, I saw, like a lot of us, right, how much that was impacting us, right? And I was close to a lot of people who took mental health seriously, right, and started going to therapy, and I realized that was only like one component of it, right? Like it couldn't do all the heavy lifting. There was so many other factors that weren't being addressed, right? So I wanted to become a counselor myself, right? So I returned to college, kind of explored some of the different options, right? So I'm technically what you would call like a post-bachelor, a senior plus, if you will, right? And what I ended up finding out about Active Minds was through one of my classes. Another classmate of mine said, "Hey, we're going to have this workshop that's going to focus on how to be there for somebody having a hard time, right?" And kind of how I talked about earlier, how you can be seeing a professional help, but the therapist isn't going to be there all the time, right? So really, one of my personal kind of avenues through mental health, right, has been the value of community, right? And everybody wants to be a part of a village, right? But you got to also be a villager too, right? Like you got to chop your wood and so on and so forth, and have some role to play, right? And I've always kind of had an aptitude for kind of listening to people's stories, right? So I got an English degree. I was always really interested in kind of hearing what people had to say, and I realized more than anything that I cared less about these like fictional make-believe stories because of how they took us away from life, right? More about what they said about the lives that we live, right? And I was more interested about helping people live their stories. So I went to this workshop and learned, back then we called it VAR, right? Which was validate, accept, or appreciate, and refer, right? And eventually that got revamped into what we call ask, right? Which we've done some workshops this semester and throughout the summer as well, right? Which stands for acknowledge, support, and keep in touch. Thank you. Sometimes I get into the word soup
Right.
alphabet. Yeah. Which, going into the counseling field, there's a lot of acronyms. It takes some practice. But all that being said, I realized how important it is essentially just to have someone to be there, right? Like, instead of being treated like somebody who needs to be fixed or like there's like a problem to address, right? Like, really the important thing was just to have someone care, right? And to be able to be that person is a very powerful thing, right? Not just for the other people in your life, but also for yourself, right?
Definitely.
But that's kind of a very complicated answer, right? But I think mental health in and of itself, right, is a
Very
complicated thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not one of those things that's just black and white. It's very gray in the middle of everything. So I definitely understand that. Now, within y'all's positions, what is y'all's favorite part of it? Like, what do you get from it? Like, self-fulfillment? Like, what is it that you, like, your favorite part of helping someone, or what is it?
Yeah. First, I want to say that's an awesome question. Whoever like took charge of that question, that's a good one.
My co-host came up with that. I just said it.
Yeah, no, that's solid, Kevin. I think for me personally is as a research liaison, right? I essentially get to research topics, which I kind of already do anyway, which is why I kind of fell into the position. I kind of nerd out about the stuff. I love figuring out how and the why, right? And a lot of the time, especially with psychology, right, we have these insights that we kind of already know it in some level, and then we finally have the science to back it up, right? Because usually when we talk about science, we say like a hard science, right? We know water boils at 100 degrees because we boiled it a bunch of times, and we're like, yeah, it seems about 100 consistently, right? So when it comes to human nature, really, it's hard to measure that, right? So it's nice to have someone put in that work, right? Like one of my favorite studies, I think it's like an 80-year study that Harvard did on happiness, right? Where they follow literally generations of people and they ask them these series of questions to kind of gauge what their life satisfaction was like, right? That's amazing data that we wouldn't usually think about having access to, right? Maybe even in our lives, we talk to a handful of people consistently or that profoundly about what they're doing and how they're feeling and all that, right? So to have that data and then kind of look at the patterns and back that up, and to be able to, for me, right, I dig into that naturally and then kind of have an inclination to kind of nerd out and share it, right? And to have that moment of connection for me is really to answer that question. The moment of connection of bringing this knowledge and talking to somebody about it. Someone being like snapping their fingers and saying, that's it, that's what I feel, or that's that thing that, happens when I do X, Y, and Z or whatever, right? Or even sometimes whenever someone's beating themselves up about something, right? And you say, hey, you know what, that's your nervous system. This is like a survival instinct that is happening that maybe is a little outdated compared to the kind of lives that we live, right? So don't be so hard on yourself and learn to have that compassion, right? Because we can tell everybody, like, hey, be nice, you can do the affirmations and all of that, right? But it's another thing to fully acknowledge that, hey, yes, this is a very natural thing that I'm doing, and there is a reason for it, and maybe it's a little out of alignment, right? But that's my big old kick. What about you, Bud?
I think for me, it's not necessarily specifically my role. I think it's more so connecting, as George has mentioned, with the leaders of Active Minds and with as serving as a point of contact as secretary. I think it's also making those connections with all different types of people, clubs, people who are outside entities or just students. Is really great. I think my goal of being a pre-med and wanting to become a doctor and work with different people from all different age groups, it helps me build those connections and have those conversations, even if it's not necessarily about mental health. And I also really love the planning of the events and hosting the meetings and things of that nature. So that's definitely what I really love about my role in Active Minds.
See, I love that. I can't wait to hear about the planning of the events and what the events consist of. But sadly, we're gonna have to go on our first break. Quick, like 2-3 minute song. But when we come back, I'd love to hear about that.
Awesome. And we are back. Really quick, just want to remind everyone that the opinions, ideas, and discussions shared in this episode are our own and do not reflect the official views of the UTRGV Student Government Association. All right, where were we?
What we were was I wanted to hear about how you guys, like, what your events are and how you guys plan the events. Like, what do you guys events are? What happens in and what happens?
Right. So I could definitely talk about two that I've had a really large role in planning. The first was the Stress Less Festival, which we hosted a couple of weeks ago. And we basically had a mixture with other organizations. We invited them to host wellness activities. And that included making slime, playing chess, finger painting, as well as flying kites and decorating the sidewalk with chalk. And I think it was a great way for people to de-stress after taking their exams, because there was exams going on like those weeks. Another one we had was the Guiding Lights event against suicide. And so it was to raise awareness for suicide prevention. And there we hosted a candlelight vigil. We also had other organizations there hosting, again, wellness activities and mindfulness activities. We also had a lot of departments like the counseling center there to share the resources that are available to students and show that they're not alone. And I think it's also a great way to show that students can find community and connect with their friends and show that everyone is here to support each other. If they're struggling with mental health, you're not alone and you don't have to go through it alone.
Really quick, if I wanted to attend or maybe get up-to-date information on this, where could I go?
You can definitely follow us on Instagram. It's at Active Minds at UTRGV.
Okay, and what about y'all's, like, I think, is it weekly meetings, bi-weekly? How do you guys do it on campus?
So we meet monthly.
Okay.
But we are also active on social media, so Instagram, our V-Link as well. We also have frequent emails that go out in regards to events, being either their meetings or the events that happen separately, right? And we also have a pretty active WhatsApp where we kind of encourage people to kind of reach out for any questions they may have in regards to maybe if it's mental health, right? Or if it's something even specific to campus life, right? Because the two are kind of integral, right? Our experience as a student is very much dependent on the state of our mental health and vice versa, right? I know some of the more interesting conversations we've had on the WhatsApp pop up have been literally like, hey, who's taken this professor before? Am I cooked? So on and so forth, right? And
The answer is yes.
yeah. And it could be like a good heads up. I think somebody answered with like, oh, they're great, but they do give a lot of homework, so clear some extra time, right? And that kind of like gives you a bit of a heads up, right? That sort of sense of community that we were talking about earlier. Yeah, and then of course for events, like you were mentioning, who will give a bit of a heads up ahead of time and then a reminder when the event is coming up as well.
So how do you guys plan the events? Do you guys just like put there a poll? Does they like how do y'all plan them out?
We usually have officer meetings, and so we see like when all of us are free or a majority of us are free to take charge and lead the events. And we plan the details down all the way to what type of food we're going to provide, if we are going to provide food, what activities are the other clubs, if we are inviting other clubs to host. And I think it's also seeing like what's needed at UTRGB. So if you see like there's a lot of exams that are coming up, we usually want to have like a stress less event either before or after those exams to help those students.
Oh, that's really good that you guys do that and have a lot of coordination. It seems like because you guys are contacting multiple different groups, even departments to fund these things, and they're big activities. Like, are y'all there at every event? I assume, or like any major event that you guys will be there.
Yeah, most of them, with the exception of like availability with work and other such things, right?
Yeah,
we try to make sure there's definitely a handful of officers available. And I think we've been very fortunate, I'll say this, to have members who are either A, connected already, or B, other orgs that are willing to connect with us, right? There's a handful of organizations that are focused around psychology or mental health, right? So they kind of go hand in hand with the work that we do. And there's even some in Brownsville, right, that we kind of want to shout out, right, to our Brownsville
You want to shout 'em out?
officers. Yeah, yeah. So, we have our officers over there. We just had a recent election, right, but I know we've had Hashim working over there for us for a while. We have Frida as well. And then another organization that is also coming up that will work with us in events and the like called Psych Social Circle. And I believe Zulema is in charge of that for now. So it's great to kind of see this kind of movement happening, right, with everybody kind of coordinating together. And we're excited to be a part of it. We love being invited to stuff,
Yes,
right?
definitely.
Tabling is always a lot of fun. And of course, the connections we've kind of done with not just other student orgs, but also with faculty and staff and so on and so forth, right? It's really reassuring and really encouraging to see that kind of movement happen.
Yeah, I want to add like a talk real quick. It's because I attended your guiding lights thing as a person.
Yeah.
Like I just went to the event. I heard about it. It was really nice. Y'all had like a lot of different games. They had different tables there. Some departments, some orgs, and that was like really pretty. And then how did y'all get like enough to do the light thing at the end? I forgot what it was.
The
completely,
candles?
but
Yeah, yeah.
like it was too windy and they kept lighting it up.
Oh,
and
okay.
They kept falling, but it was so funny. And then they eventually got it down somehow.
Yeah, well, so here's the funny thing, right? Talking about community, it was almost poetic, really, that we were trying to light our candles that happened to be windy that day. Because last year we didn't have that issue; the weather was pretty agreeable. But this year, there was a breeze coming in, and everyone was kind of struggling. So what we ended up doing was literally huddling together to block the wind for one another, right? So in a moment, that was essentially talking about the power and impact that it can have to rely on each other, right? Especially when something as complicated as dealing with either those of us we've lost to suicide, right, or suicidal ideation, or anything else, the way that it kind of shows up in our life, right? It can be really hard to do that on your own, right? And as much as we'd like to talk about hope, right, and all that, like hope can be heavy sometimes, right? So it helps to have somebody next to you to kind of lift it up, right? Whether it be a spotter, or maybe someone carries one and you carry the other, or maybe sometimes you got to take it off your back and let somebody carry it for you, right? And it was wonderful that the way we kind of solved that issue, right, was by literally coming together and like shoulder to shoulder and holding our candle towards each other and relighting each other's candles sometimes, right?
Yeah, no, like you said in the beginning, they're poetic. That's,
Yeah.
that's the idea of it.
Yeah, it was great. And of course, we had some of the officers give speeches, and even Dr. Al, the director of the counseling center, also gave a bit of a talk as well. And I think it was really great to provide that space to connect with something like that, right? Because there's, I think, a big stigma around mental health in general, right? But specifically suicide, right? It is such a heavy and
It's an uncomfortable topic for a lot of people. But the thing that I recently saw this one time, and I'm going to try to not butcher it, is if you think uncomfortable conversations are bad, just wait till you see the consequences of not having those conversations.
Yeah, that's one way to look at it,
Those are way, way, way worse, typically. Not all the time.
Typically.
Typically, like 80% of the time, the consequences of not just being forward and upfront about it, it's going to lead down a not great avenue that you might have intended or not.
Yeah, and I think the powerful thing here, I know so I mentioned I work with a counseling center, right? We also do some workshops that are focused around suicide prevention, right? And one of the things that we do usually in the beginning of our workshops, right, is we ask everybody to close their eyes at first. We say, okay, I want everybody to raise their hand who either has dealt with suicidal ideation or has been impacted by suicide somewhere in your life, right, in your social life. And then we ask everybody to open their eyes, and almost everybody in the room has their hand up, right? And the fact of the matter is, because of this like social stigma, right, we don't talk about it. When in reality, one of the biggest helps we can get, right, is to have somebody who understands it and who can be there for you during those like tough times.
And the stigma, like, what is the stigma surrounding it?
Yeah, so it can be complicated depending on cultural and like social influences, right? But like here in the Valley specifically, right, there's this idea. I think a lot of this has to do with the impact of like Mexican American cultural values and how much Catholicism has interacted with that.
I was gonna bring that up.
Yeah, and some people see suicide literally. The old terminology that some people still use is commit suicide, right? Like that was a sin. That it is like an act that is and in reality that person was the one suffering, right? And other factors can come into seeing suicide as like a form of weakness, right? Some people say, hey, you couldn't cut it, so you hit the eject seat or whatever terminology you want to use, and it's all very disparaging and uncompassionate, right? When in reality, like if somebody had been able to be present and attuned to that experience of that person, right, and that can make a difference, right?
Yeah, and then I believe this is a really old video, not old, but I was watching a reaction video. It's PewDiePie reacting to, I think, Logan Paul after he went through that whole dilemma of the forest,
Oh,
right?
yes,
And he
yeah.
interviewed survivors of people that jumped off the Golden
Golden
Great
Gate
Bridge,
Bridge, yeah.
and every one of those survivors had the same first initial thought after they jumped is, I regret it.
Yeah.
After jumping, the first thought that hit all of their minds was, why did I do this? I regret this. And I mean, thankfully, those are the ones that survived, but the ones that didn't had the same thought and they didn't survive. So I definitely understand what you're saying. Like, it's something that's not, we don't want to talk about it, but it needs to be addressed because, like you said, everyone raised their hands. I'm sure everyone's thought about it, at least idealized or even thought about how they would do it in one way, shape, or form. Whether it be funny, whether it not be funny, however they want to stigmatize it.
Yeah.
So it's good that you guys are bringing up these quote-unquote tougher topics.
Yeah, thank you. And you know, it's not inherently easy, right? But having people who support you through it, right, really does make it, like we talked about, we hope, right? Well, there's a lot of us carrying it. It's a lot easier. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why I really respect you all as an organization, and I'm happy you guys agreed to be here. Just get the word out there more. Just get rid of that stigma people have about it.
Thank you.
And I'm kind of curious. This is not on the books here that we have for y'all, but I'm curious both y'all's takes. Just the act alone of willing to take in and soak up everyone's thoughts and drama and problems, that alone takes a toll on yourselves. How do y'all deal with that? Specifically, like if you have someone always coming to you, pouring out everything to you, how do you yourself make sure that you remain okay?
Yeah.
As members of the organ, as members of just helping people.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So one of the things that we do in our Ask workshops, right, is we acknowledge how much of it is within your capacity, right? How much of it isn't, right? And one of the things that we encourage people to do is to learn to check in with themselves too, right? To say, hey, am I in a spot where I can be there for this person, right? Because let's say maybe you're not. Maybe you've also had a hard day, right? Yeah. Or maybe it's a topic that is sensitive to you that you may not be the best person to talk about with, right? So one of the things that I do in some of these workshops, right, is I will usually ask people like, okay, I want you to focus on the sensation of like being in your body right now, right? And I'll ask them to remember usually something positive, right? Like, and I encourage your listeners to try this too right now. We'll do a fun little experiment.
As long as there's no dead air, we can do it.
Yeah. So I will usually say, what does it feel like in your body when you're happy? If you guys want to take like 5-10 seconds to think about that. Or just if you have an idea, right? What sensation is happening when you're happy?
Oh man, that's a really good question. Honestly, just I guess it's that typical butterflies. I'm just like, like I don't have to force a smile. It's just I can't stop smiling. Like it's,
Yeah.
What about you, Javier?
For me, I'd say I'd actually mention like what I feel like at one of these ask and refer workshops. Yeah. When I feel happy, I say I feel lighter on my feet. I feel very uplifted, and I definitely feel it in my feet, and I also feel like a weight off my chest if I was like feeling anxious or something beforehand. So when I'm feeling joy, I feel that weight off my chest, and I definitely feel lighter on my feet. Like I could just like skip around or something.
Kevin?
Me, genuinely, dude, I just feel it in my head, dude. I just start smiling, thinking about a bunch of possibilities.
Yeah.
Like the world is yours. Like
Exactly.
anything is possible.
When I'm happy, I think about a lot of possibilities, or I think about one in great detail.
Yeah, I can see that too.
That's
Yeah.
just like me when I'm happy.
Yeah, like energized, like unrestricted almost.
Unrestricted in my head, like I'm just thinking about it, like, oh yeah.
That's cool.
George, you're the professional here. How should happiness feel? Please tell us.
Well, that's the thing I want to address, right? Like when we use the word should, right, that usually comes from a place of expectation, right, which can lead to some shame, right?
Yeah.
So everybody's experience is unique, right? Which is why I encourage everyone to get curious about it. That's the big thing, right? So I can say we all have a different way. Just now we had 3 different examples, right? What it feels like to be happy.
And they're all wrong. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. So grab a pencil. No.
Grab a pencil.
So yeah, that's the beautiful thing is everybody has their own way of doing that, right?
Yeah.
And like for me personally, right, one of the things I feel is a lightness in my chest, right? I experience this a lot. So I'm a big salsa dancer. It's one of my big hobbies. So whenever I dance and I have like a good song goes on and I get a good partner, right, I feel like this lightness in my, like a warmth in my chest, right, and almost like a brightness, right, like it's almost coming out of me. And like the way I describe it to people, right, is like the sensation of like a sunset through cotton candy, right, like something playful and bright, and that's in me, right, and I get to feel that for a second. And I was doing that for a long time without even realizing what was happening, right. So once I started learning to tune in, I also learned what it looks like when I'm happy. I learned to recognize that in others too, right? Maybe we each have our own way of doing it, right? Maybe Kevin looks a particular way when his mind is racing. He's got all that going, right? Maybe Javi, you know, like I said, he's uplifted. He's standing a little
Start
taller.
skipping.
Yeah,
Start
start
skipping,
skipping.
yes.
I know. I'm gonna look for the
I'm
little
gonna look
skips.
for Javi skipping around campus now. Like, oh, there he goes.
Yeah, right. I'll know everything is right in the world if Javi's skipping it.
No, that's good. So I guess you're saying just that even subtle sense of euphoria.
Yeah.
It's just-
And I encourage people to learn to do that when you're feeling happy. Because if all you'd ever do is learn to do these, like, let's say these meditation exercises that a lot of people are big on, right, online. If the only time you ever do it is when you're upset and anxious, your mind is going to make that association of, like, oh, I don't like checking in. It's gross in there, right? When I want to encourage people to learn to tune in whenever you're feeling good, and then eventually start doing that when you're feeling maybe not as good, right? Maybe you had a bad day, or you have an exam, something's coming up, you have stuff on your mind, right? What's going on in your body when that happens, right? So that we recognize when we're available for other people, like you were mentioning, the original question, right, was how do we not kind of get overwhelmed by everybody else's sensations, right? And that by being aware of what our sensation is, I can say, this is me, this is not me. So when I am there for somebody, I can be present in my experience. And I can, let's say someone is going through a hard time, a hard day. Maybe their car broke down, they have an exam coming up, partner broke up with them, whatever it may be, right? And I can be with them, and I can sit with their sorrow, their discomfort, right? Because in me, I have the joy of being there for a friend, right?
Yeah, it's a separation.
Yeah, and so one of my, I mentioned it before here and there, if y'all ever go to the events, you hear me talk about Mr. Rogers. I'm a big Mr. Rogers fan, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, you know, that whole
Who's
thing.
Mr. Rogers?
Yeah, so Mr. Rogers was this old TV
You're a
host.
little too young for that.
He's evergreen. He's great. I highly recommend you looking up some YouTube clips. So Mr. Rogers, or Fred Rogers, right, had this show called Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. It was a children's television show on PBS, right, the public broadcast station, that focused on kind of like small little experiences that a child might have, right, and talking about what it was like to go through them, right? Like, hey, what do you do when you're angry, right? Well, you can stomp your foot and get the energy out, so on and so forth, right? But he had this wonderful, gentle way of speaking things, and is a very wise person, right? And one of my favorite things that he says is that the best gift that you can give anybody, right, is the gift of gentle receiving, right, of that person. And
okay.
it might think like, okay, just say thank you when you get a gift. That's how initially what I thought of it when I was younger, right? But as I've gotten older, I'm realizing that sometimes you're the one that needs help, right? And you're the one receiving the help. So having a grateful, gentle reception of somebody's experience of you or whatever it may be, right, is in and of itself a gift, right? So, but also conversely, like you were saying, if someone's going through a hard time, I can sit with myself and say, hey, this is hard to hear, right? But I am enjoying the ability to be there for somebody. That in and of itself is like a gift, right? Kind of, I don't know about you guys. This is pretty pertinent to the season, right? It's the holidays. I don't know if you guys enjoy shopping for gifts for people, right? And you're starting like, oh, you know what? So and so would love this, or hey, they mentioned.
It's one of my favorite things. Yes.
Yeah, gift giving can rule, right?
Yeah, that's what I found out. Is one of my love languages is, well, obviously, gift. It's gift giving and receiving. I think it is. Just because I kind of take it in an unhealthy way though. Like I want to win. I'm going to give you the best gift that you ever received, and you're gonna like it.
Just to flex on
Just
everybody.
to flex on it. But that's just my way. I'm terrible with words. I'm horrible with them. So I will show my appreciation through monetary value, or I'll just take time
Monetary.
to, or build something. You know, it's one of my ways that I do get that like
Yeah.
euphoric sense of like, oh, they're gonna love this so much. Like,
Yeah, and that's a wonderful way to put that, because I mean, throughout all of time, like, or human history, let me say, we have people who are really good at expressing with words what they're feeling, but there's also been entire like other forms of that. Like there's music, there's art, there's even like, hey, I found this pebble while I was walking, and I thought of you because it's that one color you mentioned, you know, you like looking at or whatever it may be, right? Different things like that we find ways to connect with people, right?
That's amazing. I would have never associated a pebble with
I mean, isn't that how penguins
Yeah.
like try
Yes.
to mate like that? They
Is
offer
that
someone
actually a
or
pebble?
rock?
It's literally called pebbling. Yes. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go get a pebble.
Hey,
and
I
I'm
think
gonna
that
try
I think
Yeah.
that's a fun fact to end it on for the second break.
Of course. Yeah.
So yeah, but that was really amazing. That's awesome. I didn't know it was called pebbling.
Thank you guys. Yeah.
But we'll be back after this song. Guys. Y'all ready?
And we are back. Go ahead, Kevin. You had something that you wanted to ask?
Yeah, I did have a question. Do you guys ever find, is there any like pushback to any events you do? Like, does U-Turn reconsider it, like, you know, just a little bit iffy, or is it just always like, oh, you get me?
Mm-hmm.
That's a great question.
That it is.
I think from what I've seen is that the university is very supportive of Active Minds, and I think even like I think the counseling department has us written into one of their grants, and so we're able to receive funding from that grant to help us support us and have these events, as well as travel to the national conference in Washington.
Wow, that's awesome. It's good to know that the university is very supportive of it and y'all's club, and that's great that y'all are able to take advantage of that opportunity to hopefully gather new members or just advocate on everyone's behalf for whenever you can. That's honestly really good.
Yeah, I think so. The grant provided by the Trellis Foundation, right, was kind of, and this I can speak to this as part of the counseling center, right? We called it the Mental Health Frontline Project, right? And the idea being that the frontline, quote unquote, right, are the first people who make contact, right, when it comes to mental health, right? So whenever someone is going through, like we talked about with our Ask workshops, a difficult time, or maybe even, let's say, like we talked about suicide, right? These very like intricate experiences that someone may have a hard time finally going to go see a counselor, or maybe even seeking the help that they need, right? So to have a frontline, aka like somebody make that contact, right, makes a big difference. So that was kind of the incentive behind that, and the grant technically ended, right, but we used that as the kind of beginning to start Active Minds and to send our officers to the national conference, right, which I know the year that I went was really helpful because we got to talk to all the different organizations that had been running their club for years at this point, right? And he said, hey, you know, how do you guys deal with, you know, X, Y, and Z, or retention, or like attendance, or whatever it may be, right? And for me, the really cool thing, or the eye-opening thing, right, was how everybody kind of struggled. Like nobody had like all of the answers, right? But throughout the conference, I got to talk to people from Georgia, from Michigan, from, you know, all across the U.S., right? And kind of pull ideas together, like, hey, how do you deal with people? And some people were like, hey, well, you know what? I live in a state where winter is most of the year, right? And we only get 3 good months to do all our events, so we cram them all in those 3 months, right? And we had other people say, hey, you know, we're a commuter school, right? So most of our students don't live on campus, so this is how we kind of like work around that. We have our events in the afternoon or whatever it may be, right? Things like that. But for me, the big wake up or the big like reassuring thing or there was like how everyone is kind of struggling in their own way and how we can shoot ideas off one another. And we got to network, and I added a lot of them on Instagram and was like, hey, every now and then you shoot a message. I'm like, yo, and I'm thinking about doing this one thing, right? Or sometimes they'll even post their stories and that'll inspire us, right? So I know the chapter out of Albany posted like a men's mental health thing. We're like, hey, you know what? That's a really great idea. Like we should incorporate that in our chapter, and that's like a project in the works, right? Because we saw how well they did and I thought it was a cool idea. But yeah, in short, we've had a lot of support, definitely, and I'm grateful for it.
Yes, absolutely. Me too.
Good. Does that satisfy your question?
Hey, I'm happy. No, I'm just happy to know that UTRGV helped them regardless. It helps you guys do it. Because like my high school would not have helped. My high school would be like, yo, let's sweep this off the rug.
You want to put them on blast? Which high school? maybe not.
Palmview High School.
Ooh, he said it.
Now, real quick, just I guess short question: would you consider sadness a bad emotion?
I am of the thought that there is no such thing as good or bad emotions, right? There are pleasant to feel, right? And maybe unpleasant to feel emotions. And there are convenient and inconvenient emotions, right? So sometimes sadness can feel unpleasant, but it can be a convenient thing, right? Sometimes we have to grieve something to let something go, right? We talked about, high school earlier. A lot of students deal with that transition, right? Of, hey, you have to let go of your old high school life, right? Maybe you won't see some of your friends anymore. Maybe you're going to miss the stability of having lunch at the same exact time every day and, just having all of your classes in one small area, right? You have to grieve some of that, right? But you're also making room for new things in your life, right? New experiences on campus, new friends, whatever it may be, right? And sadness is part of that process, right? So if someone is struggling with sadness, right, I would say considering it a bad thing, right, will kind of add on to that weight of having to deal with it, right? So to acknowledge that it is a part of you, right? That is processing something that is happening. You're a human being having a human experience, right? And that it'll pass.
Avi, what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely reflect those sentiments as well. Sadness is a part of the human experience, and if we were to only feel one emotion, we wouldn't be human.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it is important to feel those feelings and not like label them as bad or good. It's that we should just feel those emotions, process them, why we're feeling those. And then if you are struggling, don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help. You have people around you who, even if you don't feel like you do, there are people willing to help you and support you. And you don't have to go through anything you are experiencing alone. Of course, in your own timing, right? And we have support and resources here on campus. If you don't want to go to your friends, or you feel like you just want professional help, or you want someone who maybe you don't know and you want to like talk to them, we have the counseling center that is open that you can go to, and it is free. It's covered in your tuition, so you're paying for it. You should use it.
Yeah, definitely take advantage of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I also want to shout out OEVP, Office for Advocacy Violence Prevention. Those people are amazing. They will help you, and they've helped a lot of people. But I'm not gonna lie, I think that's the first time I've ever heard what you said about emotion-wise.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah, because I would have considered it a bad emotion. But like what you said makes so much sense. Like I was like, I'd never heard of that before.
Oh, thank you. And, it was an original thought, right? I've had some great guidance, right? Both at UTRGV and off UTRGV. And I think that's one of the big things, talking about stigma earlier, right? That's one of the things that, we're raised and, you cry. What do your parents usually tell you, right? Especially, and I mean this with the utmost love, right? Like through the scent of coffee and conchas, right? I remember, relatives like, no llores, like, don't cry, ponte pilas, like that whole thing, right? We all hear that all the time, right? So it's a part of, I think, growth, right? Is acknowledging that things aren't as black and white, right? Two things can be true at the same time. You can feel unpleasant, but it can be convenient, right? Or sometimes you can feel pleasant and it's not convenient, right? There's that too. Let's say doom scrolling at 3 a.m., right?
That's my favorite.
Yeah, you're like, this meme's funny. I'm going to send it to my friend. You hit 10, you're like, wait a minute, it's 3 a.m. They may not respond. And you have that realization, like, I should probably.
No, that's when you send them like 6 at a time.
Yeah, that's how you know
keep their phone ringing.
That's how I know you're a real one, yeah.
And they better watch all of them, or else.
They're a one when they do respond at 4 a.m.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
And it's like, we're both at the same time thinking the same things.
That's why we're friends.
Hey, but you guys saying that I did learn that right now off Active Minds. Did you guys learn anything new off Active Minds, especially you, Javier? Because you said you've been in this for since you've always you cared about advocacy since high school. So did joining Active Minds, did you learn something? Did it change your mindset? Something specifically?
Yes, so I think something that has definitely changed for me is the concept of counseling. I had never really actually gone to counseling myself till recently, literally a couple weeks ago. And so I guess my perspective on it has changed. I had definitely seen a lot of movies. I was actually talking to George. He was asking me well, what do you think about counseling? What do you think it is? What do you have envisioned? And what do you see counseling as? And I was like, well, I've only ever seen it in movies, and it looks like this. But actually going and having starting that conversation, meeting with having that introduction conversation, it definitely showed me it's not what you see on TV. It's definitely different. And I'm still learning exactly what counseling is because I'm very new to it. So that's definitely something that I've learned, or I'm definitely learning. Another thing with, I guess, mental health is
that it's just it is like we said before, it is complicated and there's a lot to it.
definitely
A lot of different avenues that when it comes to mental health that everyone should be aware of, whether the good, the bad, the ugly. It's all just something we have to experience. Like I always said, I kind of enjoy sadness sometimes, just because if I'm this sad, then there was something able to make me that happy.
Yeah.
That same level. It's a roller coaster, up and down, left and right. You got to take the sad with the good and the good with the bad.
No, that's
It's always
wonderful.
fun to ride. It's just a big ride. you know?
Yeah.
I enjoy the sadness for motivation wise.
Ooh, that's an interesting take. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a poster of
Oh
me
my God.
losing. I have a poster of me losing in my room. That's the first thing I see when I wake up.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, he's not joking.
Wow.
Yeah, because the face I showed, I was so sad, so raged.
Yeah.
I shook his hand, but I was so mad.
Yeah.
And that's how I use it. It's just I remember it's funny looking back at it now. Oh yeah, I was so
Kind of more detached from it, and you can acknowledge it. Well, I mean, that means you cared at that level of intensity, right? It's all the same stuff firing off in the brain, man. When a lot of times when we're nervous about something, right? It just means that we care, right? And kind of to talk about like things that we've learned through Active Minds. One of the things for me, right, talking about how complicated mental health is, right? I was very much the kind of person who I talked about earlier, right? I love nerding out, reading stuff, right? I loved having all the answers, right? Whenever I didn't have the answers, like someone would go through something or whatever, like, you know what, I don't know, but I will find out, right? I was that kind of guy, right? And the thing that I learned through Active Minds is that was still centered on my experience, right? Being the guy with the answers or having to help somebody, right? Even the concept of me helping somebody, right, was focused on me, right? And through Active Minds, I learned how impactful it can be just to center the other person, right? And just to be curious about what their experience is, right? And to learn that I don't have to have all the answers, right? I just have to have a response and to be there and to be present. And ironically, how much easier that is than going through all the effort of doing all that research or looking at all these things and be like, hey, here's the one thing, you know. But instead, you just say, hey, yeah, that sounds hard, or that sounds difficult, or hey, you know, you're one of my favorite catchphrases, right? I've said it like 3 times already, but you're a human being having a human experience, right? And I'm right here with you. Right? That in and of itself has done more than like years of research ever did.
You know, I think that deserves. That's actually amazing, and I wanna go to like one of our favorite parts of the podcast. It's called the lightning round.
Oh, yes. So basically, I'm going to hit you with short-ish questions, fast fire, and you have to answer really quick. Can be very brief, one word or whatever you'd like. So, but I'm going to go back and forth, and you guys have to answer it as quick as possible, top of your head.
I'll do my best. I know my answer. I'll try to restrain myself.
All right, ready? So, Active Minds in one word.
Healing.
Community.
Mental health in one word.
Power.
Go on. Mental health in one
That's
word.
a great question.
All right, great question. Favorite Active Minds event ever so far?
Guiding lights.
Guiding lights. Yeah.
Funniest moment from a meeting or an event?
Ooh.
Could be anything. Anything. All right. We'll move on to the next one.
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
If you could create a campus-wide tradition, what would it be?
Ooh, something regarding mental health. I think maybe our Guiding Lights event being a campus-wide tradition that everyone comes up to be a part of. And I think it would be cool to have it sort of be like the burning of the letters.
Oh.
It would be great if it was like definitely like promoting more by the university so that it's has a bigger reach.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I got goosebumps when I heard that. I second that. I'm with you, Javi.
All right. What's your go-to I need to get my life together song? Or what's your go-to motivational song? What's your...
Okay, mine at the moment, and actually it's been this song for a long time. It's All Right by Kendrick Lamar. I love that song, and it definitely puts me in like the right state of mind that I'm gonna be all right, and it definitely hypes me up too. So
Okay.
Nice. That's a good one. I've got a whole playlist, but I'm going to out myself here as a big old nerd. So this is actually from a fighting game, right? The song is called The Roar of the Spark, and it's about a character's journey of pretty much trying to figure out who he is and what he does, but still trying to be a moral person throughout all that process, right? And kind of reconciling with the harm he's done, but still moving forward to do some good and to be a guiding presence in other people's lives.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. What game?
Guilty Gear.
What song?
The Roar of the Spark is the name of the song, yes.
Right.
From Guilty Gear Strive.
What's your best comfort food? Snack or something that you could just be like, this, my day has been horrible. This made my day amazing. Just
Mine
this
was
food.
Chips Ahoy.
Chips Ahoy.
Oh, Chips Ahoy
I'm
roll.
an Oreos guy.
I think mine's chocolate chip cookies. I can make really good chocolate chip cookies.
I'm going to hold you to that now.
I'll definitely bake some. I'll definitely
Ooh,
make some.
so
It's the
excited.
season. It's the season.
Okay. So for me, if I need to upregulate, okay, if I need to get myself hyped to do more stuff, just a black coffee, but I'll take my time. Like I turn everything else off, put the phone down, literally sit near a window if I can, and just like experience. I know a lot of people don't like black coffee. I love the smell and the taste of it. Right. It's become actually maybe that's a joke that comes up in Black Active Minds. Everybody thinks I'm faking liking black coffee, but just to kind of experience that. Or the other option is green tea with jasmine. That's my way to chill down if I need to calm down after a long day. That's my go-to.
Nice. Favorite place to relax on campus?
Ooh,
For me, that changes every semester. I feel like
What is it this semester?
this semester, I think it's the education complex. They've added chairs into the education complex and a lot of tables, so it's definitely
You're
a
going to be
great
seeing
place
so many people there
to
now.
study.
So
I'm
gonna
giving
be
away
there,
my
yeah.
spot. I'm giving away my spot.
George,
But, yeah.
favorite place on campus?
Yeah, so for me, it's the Veterans Memorial Garden right across from the chapel, where that little fountain is. Sometimes the fountain doesn't work, but most of the time it's nice. And yeah, I'm a big bird watcher. That's one of my big hobbies. And there's always a lot of birds kind of hanging out there, so it's nice to kind of chill out and take them in.
Okay. And favorite comfort show or movie that you like to rewatch?
Ooh.
For the movie, mine is Knives Out. I love a good murder mystery.
That's a good
And it's definitely a movie I can go back to and rewatch again and again. But also, since it is the holidays, I love Home Alone. Part
Alone?
one,
Part
and,
one?
Part
Okay.
one and two, because I love the New York vibe and aesthetic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice. I can see you as a New York guy.
Thank you.
Yeah, can totally see that. Yeah.
What about you, George?
For me, my comfort movie is Paddington 2. One of the few perfect movies. The script is so tightly written and so wholesome. It's just a good feeling all around.
Wait, who in Active Minds would make the best motivational speaker?
Sasha
Sasha's so-
Rivera.
yeah.
She's great. I think she actually gave a speech at the
Guiding
Guiding
Lights
Lights event, and
Wow.
she's a phenomenal speaker. And I think she's also very active in her church, so she's great and no stranger to public speaking.
Yes,
Now, who
yeah.
in Active Minds would make the worst? Not kidding.
Who in Active Minds would make the best villain? No, I kind of want to know.
Ooh, fascinating.
Which one of y'all?
You don't have to answer that.
Yeah. I think they know. They know.
Okay, that's what matters.
They're one bad day. No, I'm kidding.
One bad day.
All
right?
of us, plot twist.
Oh yeah, everyone. It's plot twist. It's the whole community.
One bad day.
Well, we are about to run out of time. So, is there any last closing remarks that you guys would like to tell or give out?
Yes. So going back to the sadness, a Marvel quote came up, and I know Kevin loves Marvel, so I had to bring it up. And it's that what is love? I mean, what is grief if not love persevering? And so in this time when there are people who may have maybe lost someone during the holidays, and so it's important to recognize that your grief is not a bad thing. It's not a bad emotion, and it shows that you did love deeply. And so I think I definitely reflect the sentiments said in WandaVision by the Scarlet Witch and Vision.
I like that quote.
That's good. That's a good one, right? And so I want to talk about maybe some resources that students have access to, right? I know we talked about what we would describe mental health as, right? And I use the word power, which I can kind of seem a little out there, but for me, right, one of the goals of Active Minds, right, is to empower students, right, with information and resources, and also the community, right? So for anyone out there who is maybe curious, right, about counseling, I would encourage them to check it out, because counseling is a very exploratory process, right? Like I talked about, not trying to fix, quote unquote, right, but to explore and find out what's going on, and that process in and of itself is empowering, right? And we have, of course, our counseling center. We're open from 8 to 5 business hours, right? We're located at the University Center here in Suite 109 in the Edinburgh campus, and in Suite 201 in the Student Union in Brownsville. And we do in-person and online counseling as well, right? So if, it's hard to make it across campus between classes, right? Or if you're like me and you work and also juggle school, like that's an option too, right? And I personally know all the counselors there. They're all really great, and they care a lot about the work that they do in their students. And if, that maybe isn't a good fit for you, right? Talked about me personally. I technically have 3 jobs, which I know sounds wild, right? In addition to being a student. So whenever I explore counseling, I use Timely Care, right? And that's another service that we have available to us as students. So Timely Care lets you do remote sessions, right? So telehealth, if you will. And in addition to just doing your typical counseling sessions, right, which is great because you can filter by specialization too, right? One of the things that I saw counseling for was I got late diagnosed ADHD, so it was a game changer for me. So I looked into someone who specialized in that and got some good advice on studying and emotional regulation and how that can intersect with like my experience, right? But the other cool thing about Timely Care is that they have a 24/7 emotional support line called Talk Now. So this is something I say to a lot of students, right? If it's like 2 a.m., right, and you're crashing out, or you just crashed out and you're thinking about calling that one friend who may or may not act a little too quickly and make things worse, right? It's always good to have a ride or die homie, but like sometimes, you maybe want to take a little slow and explore the process, right? So, or, the alternative is, using ChatGPT at 3 a.m. and it telling you to clean your room the next new moon or whatever, right? Like, no, you talk to a medical or a professional licensed practitioner, right? About whatever you're going through. And usually it's almost an instant connection. I've heard of maybe like a wait time of 5 to 10 minutes at peak seasons, but that's something that is available to all of us, right? Timely Care. It's an app you can download on your phone. All you need is your TRGV email. It's all free. And of course, we also have, you talked about OVAP earlier. OVAP is a great resource for students. I know we've worked with them on some of our events. Priscilla has come and talked as well. She's great. And in addition to that, we have the Vaquero's crisis line, right? And that is for in case, you are going through a hard time, you need that emergency, right there and there, that attention, right? It's 655-5555. And it's also on our student IDs. I was going to say license, that's my apologies. It's on the back of our student IDs along with all the other stuff I mentioned as well, the counseling center phone number and so on and so forth.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for letting us know all the resources that we have and offer here. Thank you guys so much for attending the podcast.
To our listeners, if you ever feel overwhelmed, stressed, or need support, remember that Active Minds is here for you. You can follow them on Instagram at Active Minds at UTRGV and keep up with their events, resources, wellness activities. Before we close out the final episode of this semester, I want to take a moment to recognize some incredible people in SGA. First, to our fellow senators, thank you for your hard work and dedication this semester. Huge shout out to Caesar, Ingrid, Zyla, Kayla, Alexis, Jeremy, and even Mateo for always bringing up passion and energy into SGA. Thank you also to our executive team, Ian, Clarissa, and the second best president we could ask for, Juan Espinosa, for leading us with professionalism and supporting so many initiatives brought forward this year. Also want to give a special shout out to Yearbook Things for documenting campus life this semester with his amazing photos. For capturing events and culture in UTRGV. That makes it special. And of course, we want to thank all the amazing student organizations that joined us on this podcast, like Student Film Association, Chess Club, UREC, Mock Trial, obviously Active Minds, etc., and every other org that took time to share their stories. Each of you helped make this show something special. Thanks for tuning in, supporting us, being part of this journey. We appreciate y'all listeners, and we can't wait to hopefully be back next semester with more voices, more stories, more student life. If you have any questions for the show or want your organization featured, email me at kevin.sebastianflores01@utrgv or
Daniel at daniel.vera02@utrgv.edu.
Thank you all for tuning in. This is Kevin.
And Daniel.
Signing off from SGA Unplugged.